So we're going to dive into the next session. This one is titled, So What? How to Create Moments People Actually Care About. And we've gone from having one presenter to two presenters. Now we have three presenters up on the stage. So give them all a warm welcome for Jennifer, Rodolfo, and Jill. And I'm going to allow them to do a quick introduction of yourselves. So Jill, why don't you get started?
Hi, everyone. This is blinding light, by the way, just to reassure everyone. Jill Schnitt. I am the president of Outdoor Media Group. We are Omnicom special business unit dedicated to all things out of home.
I am Rodolfo Queiroz. I am from Dash 2. I am the media director of the out-of-home side, and we are primarily a media and buying agency on digital and out-of-home.
My name is Jennifer Brown. I second that this light is brightest, and so if I don't look this way. And I am the head of influencer and talent partnerships at SHEIN, and we are an online, primarily known for fashion, but we are an online retailer that sells everything under the sun.
Yep. So I want to begin with a question for the group here. When was the last time an ad made you stop walking? When was the last time you were walking down the street and you actually stopped to read an ad?
I did last night.
Yeah, what was it?
It was a ChatGPT ad that was right here in Nashville.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
And what did it say that got you stopped?
It just was branding. It was just a person, you know, just standing and just having a moment in the ad. And it was simple branding, and it stopped me.
Yeah. And why?
I think I was curious. I was curious, like, what they were doing and just about the branding. It said nothing else. And so I think I just was intrigued by the fact that it was just an image. Mm-hmm. And I think in out-of-home, oftentimes, I think we were talking a little bit about creative and the progress that's been made in creative. You don't always just see just the logo and an image, and then the image is meant to tell the story, and a picture really is worth 1,000 words. So it stopped me and it made me think, you know, what are they trying to sell me on or make you feel, right, as you said.
Yeah. What about either one of you?
I want to go first.
I think for, mine was a Sweet James ad on the 5 freeway. No, I'm just kidding if anyone is from LA. Mine, I think I was in New York recently and I saw an ad for Brex. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Brex, but it's like a expense software, and it was like playing off of how doing your expense reports, they had like someone like frustrated like in their apartment doing their write-offs, and I like sent a picture and sent it to my team because it's like something I think we can all relate to, and it is a great platform though, Brex. We use it, and it makes it very easy.
It's funny you asked that question. You know, when I first started at Dash 2, you know, my boss told me is that you're never going to look at billboards the same way again. Yeah. And I definitely don't. I always see it all the time. I always want to look. It kind of feels like a TV guide in terms of like everything that's going on in the world at this moment. But the more recent ad to me that really stuck to me was it was actually in LA, and it was for the FIFA World Cup, and it was actually the dates of when the Fan Fest was going to be happening in LA.
We're tying panels together here.
Oh yeah. So for me, I'm a big soccer fan. So for me, I would love to know that. It's always good to have that idea and then just be able to reference like, oh yeah, I actually saw that on a billboard, and it just, you know, really justifies what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. So if you just using the idea from these are ads that made you stop in your tracks and captured your attention. You know, how do you execute a campaign and make it something that actually creates a moment that an audience cares about versus just some experience where people get to touch and feel a brand? How do you go from one to the other? Rodolfo, let's just start with you.
Well, it really depends on the consumer that you have. You know, you really have to like speak to them in the way that they're going to actually care. So for instance, in my situation, when I take off my out-of-home glasses and I'm just like that soccer head, it's something that I'm really paying attention to. It's something that I really want to do. It's something that I want to be engaging with. So it just always comes down to the type of consumer that you have and how you want to, you know, portray your creative to them.
Yeah, you're tapping into a passion in that moment. That makes sense, right?
Big time, big time.
Right. What about you, Jennifer?
I think for us, it's more how can we use experiential and out-of-home to tell a story, and how can we leverage it to really be a part of the narrative. And so for us as an online brand, as an affordable brand, there's skepticism. People are skeptical of the price point. And so we're leveraging experiential to combat that skepticism.
And do you, I mean, your products are real world products. They're being used every single day. So are you trying to get somebody in that moment to think about what they're wearing differently or what they're using differently?
Yeah. So for example, we launched home decor last year, and so that was a brand new vertical, and so that was like triple skepticism: affordable, online, and now home decor. And so we knew experiential needed to be part of that strategy. And what we did is since I'm not sitting on the talent side, is we partnered with Heather Ray El Musa from Selling Sunset, who at the time was flipping houses on HGTV, and she's been very vocal about affordable home decor to stage these houses, to make it budget friendly. And we partnered with her, did a social series, and then like to bring it all home, we took a home in West Hollywood and like staged it entirely with the products. Everything had a QR code, was not moving. So you could, see the product online, see, touch, and feel is very important. The couches, the vases. I always remember the face on the People magazine editor when she left the bathroom and she's like, "Were those hand towels SHEIN?" And I'm like, "Yes, they were SHEIN. Like, take them home."
She stole the bath towels from the house?
I sent them to her. But it was a great like third-party validator for people to see, touch, and feel.
Yeah, and that is creating a moment at that point, but you can't really measure that as much as you can just look at it and feel the aha and the epiphany in their eyes versus maybe the bottom line on sales, right?
Yeah, look, we're looking at the sales, but also I think for us it was a lot of media impressions. Like that led to a piece in People magazine, that led to coverage on Extra TV and E! News, because people are drawing awareness to like, hey, SHEIN sells home decor. We saw it, we tested it, and come try it out. All the patio furniture is in my backyard now. It's great. Like every barbecue. Like, these are SHEIN. People, wow.
Nice. And then Jill, you have to pitch a lot of these brands to go do what you want them to do in an experiential environment. Like, how do you pitch them on the idea of creating something that the audience will care about? How do you even measure what they care about?
So for me, time is critical, right? As a person, as a professional, time is really important. And so when you think about an experiential campaign or an out-of-home campaign, to your point, what stops you in your tracks? What makes you spend time thinking about something? So for us, it's like, what can we create that will allow a consumer to spend time with a brand in a very authentic way? And so I think nowadays, a lot of people can call BS very quickly on the brands that aren't authentic, the brands that, to your point, you're talking about engaging with your products. When you're doing that, you're putting your brand out there. And so for us, time is a critical piece of measurement. We've run campaigns, and the proof is in the pudding, where consumers will wait around the block for an activation, like hours, double digit, 10 hours. When they get into an activation, they'll spend 20 minutes in that activation. Consumers aren't doing that by accident. They're doing it because they care about a brand and care about what the experience is too.
Yeah, and that's an interesting time, because the amount of time they spend in the experiential environment is key. Will you keep an experiential activation live longer so you can get more people in there if the time being spent and the ROI is looking to be positive?
I don't know that we'd keep it up longer, but I think that it's an opportunity to revisit it, maybe in a different city or in a different location, because it worked, right? Something that we did worked. I also think today it's all about exclusivity a lot of times. You want to be inclusive, but it's like, who can get a ticket to something, who can have an experience, who can share it on their socials. And oftentimes our digital audience is much larger than our in-person audience. So it's like telling a friend who lives somewhere else maybe about something you experienced with a brand. So I think it gives us an opportunity to revisit something and say, great, we did this, now how do we continue as it is, or can we iterate on what it's been and the success that we've had through it?
Yeah. Now, based off of what you just said, Rodolfo, I'm going to ask you, and we mentioned this in one of the panels earlier, I think it's actually come up a couple times, but does social become a really important, or maybe even required partner and complement to doing an experience? Because it seems like it becomes one of the measurements to determine if it is an activation that people do care about, if they start to organically post about it, and do they start to actually take it and bring it into the social environment, bring it to a digital environment. Is that a required component of an experiential activation now?
I would say that it's almost a given. The only way that a lot of people will see it is if you end up putting it digitally. Unfortunately, but also fortunately in the sense. So yeah, when it's living there on digitally and you're actually speaking to whether if it's your followers or your consumers on a digital base, yeah, it's kind of like a requirement to put that out there to really show that it's like, okay, this isn't just what happened, you know, in person. It's actually been recorded, it's been out there, and that everybody can, you know, see it in one way or experience it, just not physically, but also digitally.
Yeah. And actually, Jennifer, for you on the SHEIN, which by the way, even before our call the other day, I had always thought it was SHEIN, so I'm glad I finally learned it was
I've
SHEIN.
heard it every which way. And then people tell me I'm saying it wrong. SHEIN, SHINE,
Yeah,
SHEIN,
I'm sure there's at least 3 people in this audience who are like, that's how you say that brand?
SHEIN.
But when you did, for example, the SHEIN house, and it goes up online, does the online component drive people into the activation in person?
Yeah, so for a lot of the time for us, it's a two-prong approach. So we're bringing our media, influencers, editors, VIPs, stylists together to experience something first on, and then they're creating that sense of FOMO, right? And so they're driving that awareness factor. And so for us recently for Festival, we did a consumer insight survey, and we saw that our consumers were shopping for Festival 3 to 4 weeks in advance, 70%. And then 60% of them are wearing 3 to 4 outfits a day at festivals.
Not the ones I go to.
And then they're also, we can dive further into that, and we can see like they don't want to spend any more than $10 on sunglasses. Mm-hmm. And so what we did was, okay, our consumers telling us they're shopping before. Yes, we need to be on site at these festivals, but we need to be activating in a big way before, so we can have our consumers make that considerable purchase. And so we did an activation we call SHEIN Festival House. We have a little video we can play. I'll be quick.
I have this here. Pass that on down. We can get to it.
And we brought, you know, all the people into the room, celebrities, media, influencers, VIPs. We had people from the cast of Mormon Wives. We had influencers that we work with on a regular basis, driving awareness, posting on social. I think we generated over 19 million impressions in a day. And then we opened it up to the public on Melrose, and it was the #1 foot traffic spot on Melrose for that weekend. And we also saw the post continue to live on because people were then taking the pieces that they picked out at the festival house. I say it was the gifting suite that kept on gifting, and wearing those pieces at Coachella, at Stagecoach. And so we were kind of getting to see the content live on. Okay. So I guess I should play this.
Yeah.
Those sunglasses, no more than $10, right?
Yeah. Now, is something like that, is it taking advantage of a moment that exists, or are you trying to create a moment in itself, or is it the synergistic, you know, the fact that they two live together that brings that to be successful?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? Because we knew activating before was important because our customers are shopping ahead of these events. And then I think we also, for us, it is that we want to show that see, touch, and feel. Like, I love what we were saying earlier about the senses. Like, people do need to consider all of those elements, and I think that is what kind of gets people continuing to post and, you know, increasing their consideration for the brand.
Yeah. Jill, for your clients and for how you guys approach what you're doing, how much upfront planning has to go into trying to identify when a moment is going to resonate versus just trying to launch something on a random weekend that might actually work in itself?
Yeah, we need to be very intentional about what we're doing. We need to understand our consumer the same way that Jennifer is talking about understanding her consumer. You know, I think you're in a unique position where you have a physical product, right? For many of our clients, you know, we work across financial services, tech companies, entertainment, and there isn't always that physical product. There's that experience and what resonates with that audience. So our team just did an activation at Bottle Rock this past weekend, and you know, to be completely transparent, I was not as familiar with the festival, but our team has their finger on the pulse because the audience that we needed to reach for the particular product that we were trying to get into the hands of our that consumer, that's where those folks were. So being at that festival was critical, and that takes time to plan and extreme operational excellence. Like, those things don't happen on their own. You need to make sure you have permits, logistics, make sure any products that you're providing are safe for consumers, that somebody doesn't mistake, you know, pet food for people food. And so I think there are a lot of logistics that go into it. And so it's critical that you have the right people working on those campaigns and that you're working with the right partners to execute those campaigns.
What is the makeup of a team that's preparing an experiential activation like that look like? Is there a component that's research and creative? Because we talked about creative earlier. Martin was talking about that. But is it creative and research sitting together? Is it the account team with a media team trying to figure out how to logistically execute all that? Or is it a combination? What does that team look like?
Yeah, so within Outdoor Media Group and through our acquisition with IPG, we're working with a team called Impact. Some of you may be familiar with them, and we have an amazing team of practitioners in the production space. They do everything from studio, activation, production. So we have a strategy lead for that. So they're people who are solely focused on executing these type of campaigns, and it's a specialty within our specialty because it needs to be. And then we bring in our out-of-home practitioners to really complement what we're doing in the real world with incremental signage and to scale what we're doing, you know, in one particular location across the city.
And Rodolfo, when these activations go live, how are you measuring whether or not it actually worked?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you know, there's different ways that you can do it, whether if it's the viral approach that you find on socials as to what's being shared or what's being liked. And then there's the other approach as to who actually shows up, who's actually there, who's actually, you know, enjoying themselves and spreading word of mouth as to what was going on. I mean, I personally think that when it comes to measuring an experiential type of campaign, it just comes down to really who is there. Really, who is being present, who is actually, you know, following up with the brand, whether if it's sales or any sort of showing that you can have that reporting. Like I said, in terms of the digital side of things, it's always good to go viral, but it's just not the only way to do it.
Right. And I've never planned any experiential campaigns, so from my perspective, it looks like it's something that's a lot of work for something you cannot replicate. Right? You can't go back and do the same experience the following year. You have to find something new to do. So how do you keep the teams behind the scenes motivated to keep coming up with new ideas? Because you constantly have to go reinvent the wheel, don't you? Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's always having to show something that is going to be unique every single time. You can't really do the same thing over and over again, or else you're just going to, you know, play yourself out or, you know, just look stale in that sort of aspect. But I mean, to do something unique and different, it's so that you have something new to always share and always show to people that, hey, we are doing something different. We always have something that's going to be unique, and you can just follow up with that.
Yeah. Did you have something you want to say? Or
No, I was just nodding.
When you go to the brands, can you do this with a less established brand? Do you have to have a brand in place already to go do an experience?
No, I think any brand can create an experience. It's just about how you're looking to connect with, you know, that consumer. What are you trying to drive in terms of emotions, right? And logic, what makes somebody stop in their tracks to say, hey, I want to go into this experience. I want to connect with this brand. I think it always helps when there's brand recognition, but I also think, you know, those connections with consumers, like that quality of impression, you know, to create that one-to-one experience with a person who's living within your brand now is incredibly critical to then building a very robust and I think like sincere audience.
Jennifer, for you, tied back to that question. So I like that activation of the festival, the festival pre and during activation. Can you actually take that activation and then say unequivocally, we've tracked, people who showed up at the event, do you track to see if they buy products later? Or do you primarily rely on the brand exposure as the vehicle for measurement?
I mean, we're also looking at what is our traction in this area. Is this?
Did we already break a mic? You get a cooler mic now. You can just drop that one.
Drop the mic?
No, not that one.
My father-in-law did that at my wedding, and the DJ told him, "Don't ever do that again." So I think we're also looking at traction in that area. So we do pop-ups all over the United States, and so after the pop-up, we're tracking. Okay, did we see a lift in Austin? Did we see a lift in Miami? What were those consumers then looking to get online? So we're always we're very much insights driven as a brand, and so taking different activations and seeing what that traction was. And I think different types of events have different KPIs, and that's also very important to make sure on the brand side that we align on. I think people work better when they understand what they're doing and how it ladders up into the overall marketing vision for the brand. Yeah. And so, a pop-up with a five-figure budget is going to have a different results than a seven-figure festival spend. So I think keeping those different KPIs and objectives in mind and making sure everyone is aligned on that is key.
Well, I am kind of a data nerd, so I'm just really curious to go one more layer into that. When you do an activation in a market, and do you then do a controlled test to look at another market where the activation didn't happen, but you had the same base level of media spend to support the market? Do you look at the differences between those?
Yes, definitely. We're looking at the differences, and we're looking at, even down to like category, like, okay, denim did better in this market than it did in another market. What is the reason for that? So we get really into the insights.
And that goes back into basically re-justifying why you want to continue doing experiential.
Yeah, goes right back into the justification and helps us plan better.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. It's funny because I have to make sure everybody answers questions, so I have to keep going back and forth. But at some point, you all just talk, and I'll stop talking. But I guess for anybody, what do you think is the most important when you are looking at these events? Is it the sort of intangible care metric and the idea of the moments that really support the development and the growth of the brand? Or do you look at those really data-driven attribution types of models to say, we saw an X% lift that warranted that spend against doing experiential in that market? Which one really, on the balancing scheme, which one weighs higher?
For me, I think if it's authentic, you're gonna see results, right? If you are thoughtful and strategic about where you're showing up and how you're showing up in an authentic way, then the data results will follow, whether it's time spent, products distributed, how somebody engages with your brand, scans a QR code. I think all of that will fall into place if it's authentic. I think that's really, really critical when we think about experiential campaigns.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, talking to Jill's point and everything, I would agree with that. But I think it's very much as to how the impact that you have in terms of the awareness, as to how you show up. You are this big brand. You could be a small brand, but you seem bigger when you have that experiential approach. As you look as big as a brand, of course the results will follow with it. But it just comes down to being seen as something big, in my opinion.
I think the insights are fascinating, but for me, I think I'm biased in like influencer and talent is I'm looking at, okay, how did this change consideration? We say our story was told for us and not by us, so I'm looking, okay, what was the media? What were these impressions from this experiential activation? How did that kind of help shift brand perception? And that's gonna help me sell the brand better internally.
If I can add to that also, I think consumers don't think about, okay, a brand has an out-of-home strategy and a social strategy and a digital strategy and an influencer strategy. So I think when all of those teams work together, to create something that's really full funnel 360, you get more participation because the influencers are authentic brand representation, and the experience feels very organic to, you know, who you are and what they represent too. So I think it's on us also to think about that more as not just an experiential campaign and influencers, but everything, you know, working together
whole
to
strategy.
create a very strategic and meaningful campaign.
So we will open it for, if anybody has questions for this panel, this is a good time for us to be able to open that up. There is a question right down here, actually. Oh, there's a question here.
Oh, I love it.
This is
Who
great,
had the
'cause
question?
I have
Show
more,
me
but
your
I like
hands.
it when you ask them.
Show me your hands. All right, here we go. Remind us who you are again.
I'm Martin Porter from Dentsu.
Hi.
My question is, where is the line between an execution that's like you're creating an element of exclusivity and you want an experience versus it then becoming detrimental? And what I mean by that is you often get super fans are the ones who want to come to these things, and we've done them before, and then you go, there is a line that's 10 miles long and you have to shut it, you know, you get to a point where you go, this is only a 2-day execution, etc. So do you think it gets to a point where you don't want to piss off some of your super fans? Like, I don't know the answer. I'm hoping you can tell me, because we come up with this a lot of like, how do you keep it exclusive but also not make it go on for the ends of the earth? There isn't an answer.
It's a hard one.
Look,
Sorry,
I think it's a challenging question, right? Because in any area, whether it's an experiential activation or an exclusive product, there's a level of risk with the exclusivity always. I'm not sure if there is an answer. I think it's, again, how you react to that, or how you prepare consumers, right? For this is how long an event is taking, or this is how many products we have, or while supplies last. And that's where you also build up the demand. So I think if you approach it correctly, it has less negative impact, but there are always going to be those consumers or those people who have a negative feeling to a brand because they missed out on an opportunity, but maybe it makes them approach it differently next time.
To follow up with that, I think it also depends on the product or the vertical that you're dealing with. I mean, I work with a lot of music and entertainment, and that's kind of like their whole shindig is that you missed out, so you have to be there for the next one or something. So to them, it's actually a good thing to have those moments of like, you have a huge line, you have that exposure, and you know, they want to have a limited type of exclusivity that you got it, so you're a part of something. So it just depends on the product that you have.
For our pop-ups, we know that the consumer wants to wait for about 20 to 30 minutes in line. And so once they wait beyond that, they're gonna start to get frustrated. So we're trying to, now that when we're building out these stores, we know, okay, that's gonna allow consumers to move through this space around this pace so we can kind of keep the line moving. And then also making sure that we have surprise and delight moments for those customers that came out and waited, because we know when we come to your city, there's gonna be a line, so that they're getting gift cards or they're getting special activations and things that they wouldn't get if they had stayed home.
We have time for one last question.
Hi, I'm Charlie from Atmosphere TV. In Martin's presentation, he showed us that out-of-home receives just a small fraction of overall media spend. In your organizations, how are you ensuring that your big ideas are being funded versus other traditional media tactics?
So I can speak for our team. We are getting out-of-home budgets and experiential budgets. We're not taking away from out-of-home budgets. If anything, it's an incremental budget, or it might be taking away from other channels. It's been really amazing to see the demand, the extreme demand. I mean, for anybody who works at an agency or even a brand or works in this space, I think it's been overwhelming to see how important experiential has become to the media mix. It is its own line item now. So we're not taking away from out-of-home budgets. I think it's complementing out-of-home, and our experiential is always tied to media, out-of-home media as well. So they're working in tandem.
I would say that they just go hand in hand with each other. I mean, I don't like to see experiential being different than out of home. I kind of see it to be the same thing. So it's not necessarily one being taken away from the other. It's more of just how you're going to apply in terms of it being specific to one or specific to the other. So yeah, I just don't think they take from each other necessarily.
All right. Well, I think we created a moment that you all cared about. So give Jennifer and Rodolfo and Jill a nice hand. Thank you very much. All right.